What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Akamai Developer. And today we're diving into something super cool, and that's how to install and use Repmgr. And it actually stands for a Replication Manager. And it's a super cool tool to manage replication and failover on PostgreSQL cluster in Akamai Connected Cloud. So if you're looking to boost your database reliability and performance, this video is for you. And don't forget, you can follow along with free credits using the link in the description below to sign up at Akamai Connected Cloud and get $100 in free credit. All right, so here's the game plan for today. First, we'll give you a quick overview of what Repmgr is and why it's essential. Then I'll walk you through the installation and configuration steps. And finally, we'll test the failover and see it in action and wrap up with some final thoughts. So ready? Let's go. What is PostgreSQL? PostgreSQL is an amazing database system, but it doesn't have built-in high availability. And this is where Rep Manager comes in. And Rep Manager stands for Replication Manager, like I said in the intro, but it's an open source tool that helps you manage PostgreSQL replication and failover. And this means if one of your database nodes go down, Rep Manager ensures your database keeps running smoothly by promoting a standby node to the primary node. So it's perfect for anyone running mission critical applications. And right now I'm on the page for Rep Manager, and this is repmgr.org. And of course, we'll have a link down in the description for that as well. If you're using a different distribution, I'm going to show you guys on Ubuntu 24.04. But like I said, it's open source, so you can go to the GitHub page and review the code. Now, it's written in C, but it's actively being developed. They keep pushing out updates as they create new features for it. And right now, the latest version is 5.4.1. So you guys can check it out. And then also, if you go back to their website, the documentation is awesome. And trust me, I had to use it during this process in order to get everything set up properly, because I had never used this software before. And so it was super cool to find this so I could cover it for you guys. Now, let me switch over to my Akamai cloud and show you guys the nodes that I have created. They're brand new servers, and I will go through and install PostgreSQL on it just to show you guys how to do it from scratch, and then also get Rep Manager installed as well. And there are Ubuntu 24.04. So let's go down and hop over to those machines and get started. All right, so let's get our hands dirty and install everything we need. As you saw, we set up two nodes running Ubuntu 24.04. Our primary node is this one I'm SSH'd into. This is the IP address for that server. And I'm gonna be switching back and forth between them. Not too often. I'm gonna build out the primary node first. But one of the first things you need to do on both nodes, which I've already done it on the secondary node, and I'm finna run it here on the primary node, which I'm sure it doesn't have any updates because I set these servers up the other day and I ran updates on them. But let's type sudo apt updates, and then let's also run sudo apt upgrades y. And it's always a good idea to upgrade your servers just to make sure the server is fully up to date. And so let's go down and run through it. And as you can see, we don't have any updates, so that's good to go. And like I said, I already ran it on the secondary node, so we're just gonna stick on the primary node. And one of the first things we need to do is add the PostgreSQL repository. Let's go down and add our source, and this will allow us to install PostgreSQL from its main repository. And I'll post this in here. This is basically the key for that repository. So we're good to go there. And then whenever you add a new source or a new repository, you will always want to run an update. That way it can refresh against that repository. So let's run sudo apt updates. And then you'll also see Postgres in there. So postgres.org. And one of them is PostgreSQL, which is going to come from this repository. And then PostgreSQL 16 Rep Manager. And that's one cool thing about Rep Manager. It's in the Ubuntu repository. So we don't have to worry about adding a PPA or a source like we did for Postgres. I just want to use Postgres source so I can show you guys you can get it directly from their repository. But you want to make sure the versions match with Rep Manager and PostgreSQL. And the most up-to-date Postgres is 16. That will be installed on here. All you have to do is type sudo apt install and then PostgreSQL and then also Postgres and then tag 16, tag or GR, and that's the rep manager right there. So we install both of those packages at one time. So let's go down and press enter. That'll get PostgreSQL installed as well as the replication manager as well. So let's run through that right fast. And this will take a second. And while it's going, I'll skip ahead, but I'm gonna go do the exact same thing on my secondary node. All right, great. We have PostgreSQL as well as the replication manager installed on both servers. Now, at this point, you want to make sure where you are at all times, meaning the servers that you're connected to, especially when you're going to set one up as the primary node and then another one as a secondary node. And I already know what the IP addresses are. This one's 114, and I'll actually run the IP command again. I'll run it throughout the process so we can make sure that we're on the right server. But these steps I'm going to run just strictly on the primary node. You don't want to run this on the secondary node. You want to run these commands on this primary node. And we basically are about to configure our PostgreSQL configuration file. So let me show you guys where that is. So let's type sudo nano, and then it is under our etc directory. And then there's a PostgreSQL directory, and then this is 16, and then main, and then there's a PostgreSQL. So this is the main configuration file for PostgreSQL. One of the things we have to do is allow the server to listen for other IP addresses, because right now it's only set to local hosts. And I'm gonna do some searching for a lot of the other ones because they're hard to find. This is a long configuration file. And so it's best to use the searching in Nano, which is pretty decent. It works for what you need. So what I'm looking for is the wall level. So I'm gonna search and then wall underscore level and press enter. That'll get us there. We need to comment that out. So let's search again. And we're looking for the archive underscore mode and press enter, and we gotta comment that out, and we need to turn this to on so that way it can archive. And then I believe right in this same area under archive there is the archive, and I passed it the archive command. This has to be turned on as well, and we have to specify it. It's /bin/true, and you want to put it within those quotes. So just making sure you understand that. All right, so the next one I know is a little further down, so we're going to search it right fast. And what I'm doing is hitting Control W. That's how you open up the search within Nano. So max wall senders 10, we can leave that as the default, but we just need to turn it on. And then I believe the max replication as well. So yeah, let's do that one as well. And then also let's look for the hot standby. So HOT_stand, and let's search for that hot standby. We need that turned on as well. And then let's search again. We need shared underscore preloads and press enter. And what we're doing right here is actually setting the library, which is good, you know what I'm saying? And this requires a restart, just so you guys know, but it's going to be rep, and you want to make sure you type all this stuff in correctly so it works properly. And then there's one more change we need to make within the configuration file. Let's search for it right fast. I think it's back at the top. It's actually one I forgot. It's the wall underscore log press enter. Yeah, and the hints, that's what we need. We just need that on as well. And let's turn this on. And now that we made all our changes, let's go down and hit Control S to save and Control X, and that'll close it out. All right, now we have another configuration file we have to edit, and this is under that same directory. I'll show you guys it right fast, but it's PG, and this is for client authentication. That's essentially what it's for. HBA. Yeah, and that's correct. So let's get on up in there, and I'm gonna just paste all this down at the bottom. I'm just basically opening it up so our server can receive connections based on the settings that we have set up. And of course, this is a development environment, so it's a little bit more security you want to do for a production server. I'm just walking you guys through the process of actually setting it up. What I always do when I add anything in the configuration file, a lot of times I put notes, especially when it's something totally separate or it's dependent on another application. So rep manager. So that way I know that's what this is under here and that I added it by putting something there. And so I'm gonna just paste in the changes so you guys can see, but this is mainly for the authentication. You have to put the IP addresses, you have to put some trust in there in order for it to connect to it. Now, Once you get this thing fully set up, you want to change this to MD5. That way it encrypts your passwords and all that stuff. Like I said, I'm going to shut this thing down. Once I'm finished with it, I just want you guys to get the gist of the process. So let's go on and move on to the next step. But that's pretty much it. This is our authentication, client authentication. So we added that. Let's go on and save that configuration file. And now we essentially need to restore our Postgres server. Just like I said, some of those configuration changes, you need to get a full reboot in order for them to take. You can do reload. Some people will do reload, or you'll see reload in certain documentation, but you might as well just do a restart. It's not like it takes much longer than a reload, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So let's go down and press enter. That'll restore our server. And boom, we are good to go. It's back up. All right, cool. So we're still on the primary node. Just to show you guys the IP address again, 114. And what you want to do on the primary node is create a Rep Manager user. And then we're also going to create a database within Postgres. So we can log into our accounts, because whenever you install Postgres, there's a Postgres account that's created on the system. So you can log into it. I'm gonna just type sudo -i -u and then post and press enter. So you guys can keep this separate from the last stuff that we did. So create user. And what we are gonna do is create a user for the database. And I'm gonna just call it Repmgr and then press enter. And then we can also create a database. And I'm gonna just use the same name. So rep-or and then -o, and then that's for the user account. So Repmgr. Now this is the part where I was talking about security, because with it trusted in that configuration file, based on the documentation, your passwords are sent in clear text, just so you guys know. So make sure you set up the security on your server. I didn't want to go too deep, but you definitely want to look into the security of this application and not leave it open, especially in the cloud where someone can get access to it. But what I'm gonna do is log into our PostgreSQL server, and then we're gonna run a couple commands in here. And this is just to alter the user Repmgr with password. And then we have to specify what we want to have our password. And I'm gonna just make it password 12 exclamation point. And then you need to put it in a closed quote, and then close out our SQL statement with a semicolon, press enter, and that alters the role. And then it was one other thing, we want to add that user to have replication permission. So it's Repmgr and then with replication. So now this account can do replication on the servers. We altered the role, we set a password for the account. Now we're good to go with that. And this is just a test database in order for us to use for the failover. Now let's go down and get out of PostgreSQL. And the next thing you want to do is set up SSH keys. And this is for passwordless SSH between our primary node and our secondary node. Now, let's go down and generate some keys right fast. I'm going to clear. And you want to do this under the Postgres account. Don't do it under your main account that you log into the server. Do it under the Postgres account. And you guys all know how to make SSH keys. So let's just type SSH tac keygen and then tac T, and then I'm going to use RSA and then tac B. And I'm gonna use 4096 just to make it super strong. So press enter and that'll generate our key for us. Just press enter, don't put a passphrase on it. And then also let's go down and cat out our public key, because we're gonna have to add that to our other server in order for us to connect to it. And right now password authentication is turned on. There is no key over there. So I can't just use the send identity over to the other server because there is no password set for Postgres, which we could create one, but we could do it this way without it. And so let's go down and now you never want to do this on a video, which it doesn't matter. It's just a public key. As long as you don't share your private key, you're good to go. But still, I wouldn't share it. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm gonna do is copy this out to a text file, because we're gonna switch over to our other server because we're pretty much done with the configuration for our primary node. All right, so I'm connected to the other node, our secondary node. So I'm gonna go down and type IP so you guys can see that. But it's 142. And Postgres has been installed and all that stuff over here. What I'm coming over here for is to put our keys on there. And like I said, when you install PostgreSQL, it creates a Postgres account. So all we got to do is type sudo tac I and then tac u and then post. And let's get into that account, right? SSH tac keygen. And this will create the directory. I don't know if you guys know that until you use SSH keygen, it won't have that hidden SSH folder in there that holds all your keys. So tac T and then RSA and then tag B, and then we're going to use 4096 as well. Let's go down and press enter. This will generate that private and public key pair. Let's go on, press enter. Boom, it'll store it in there. And now within that directory, that SSH directory, there is a file that you can create called authorized keys, and this will allow connect to it, or SSH keys to connect to it. So let's type nano because we own this directory. We don't need to type sudo. So nano, and then that SSH directory, and then authorized underscore keys. And basically what we're doing is creating this file because nothing is in it right now. That key that we copy from the primary node, we're going to paste that in there. And it's basically one line. So just so you guys can see, but that is the key from the primary node server. So let's go on, close this out, save it. It's going to write that information out to that server. We're good to go. Cat out our public key here as well. So it's under that SSH directory, and then ID underscore A dot pub, and press enter. And we can copy this key as well from the secondary node because we need to put that on the primary node next. So let's go on and paste it in my text file. And then I'm going to exit out so I know exactly where I am. I'm going to just exit out of this. And now I'm back on the primary node. And so let's go down and add our SSH key here as well. So let's type nano and then dot SSH and then authorized underscore key. And just make sure you spell it right because it won't be able to find it if you type it in incorrectly. And let's copy our key from the other server and paste that on it. And it looks like I didn't copy it all. So good thing I have it still open over here on the other server, but let's copy it, the full thing this time, and paste it in here. So we can press Control K, that'll delete that line, and paste the full line in there. And boom, there you go. And you know it's the full thing if you see SSH or SA in the front of it and the username and the host name at the end of it. So we got our keys on each server so they can communicate with each other, at least for that Postgres account. Now, we're back on the primary node. So let's go on and exit out of this account because now we need to configure our replication manager using a configuration file. And what we can do is store it under our etc directory. So I'm going to type sudo nano, and we're creating a new file. So under that .etc directory, we can create a file called repmgr.conf. And we had to do this on both servers, just so you guys know. And so I'm going to do it over here first, and then we're going to hop back over to the other side and show you guys the configuration over there because it's different per server. So this is our primary node, like I stated. And so what I'm gonna do is paste in this configuration for it. And this basically breaks down the information about the server. So at the front, there's the IP address, and it looks like this is incorrect. So our primary node's IP address, and then we need to put in our password, and we actually don't need those quotes as well. But let's just go and type in our password, and I believe it's password 12, and then I need to take this quote off the end of it too right there. We don't need that. And we just need a single quote there. That's what it is. And so just to break down each line of the configuration file. So this is node 1. This is the ID for the node. Then the node name. So it's Postgres 1. So PG1. Then the connection information. And then the data directory, which that is the default location for PostgreSQL under varlib 16 main, then failover automatic. So that means that if this node goes down, it'll automatically fail over to the other node within the failover cluster. And you can have multiple nodes in here. This is not, I'm just creating 2, but you can have more than that. Some people have 3, 4. It all depends on how important this application is. And then we also have a couple commands, so promote commands, follow commands, and then this is an important part of it. So once we get it all set up, the logs will be stored under var log PostgreSQL, and then there's a rep or a dot. That's basically for our replication manager on the primary node. Now what we have to do is register the primary node with replication manager. So we have to go back into our Postgres account, and then there's commands that you have to run. So it's repmgr and then -f. And then we have to specify our configuration file, which is under that etc directory. The F, that's what that F stands for, is the file for our configuration. And then this is our primary node. So we need to specify that it's the primary, and then we need to type register. And this will register this as our primary node. So let's go and press enter, and boom, you'll see it says, as long as it says primary node record ID 1 registered, you're good to go. And it also installs the Rep Manager extension in Postgres. So we're good to go with that. Now, let's go down and switch over to our secondary node and pretty much do the exact same thing. So let's go down and create our configuration file. So let's type sudo nano, and then we need to create that file under etc, and we want to call it repmgr.conf and press enter. And then we can copy our configuration information. And this is our secondary node. As you can see, it's different. So that's why I say you have to create one for each one, and it's different per the server and specifically the IP address. So as you can see, it has that 142 as the IP address, and we need to put our password in there for the database and the user and then the database information. So our connection information, same information as the other when it comes to everything below the connection. The only thing different is the host name or the host IP address, and that this is node ID 2 and node name PG2, so Postgres 2. So let's go down and save it, Control X and then Y to save. We're good to go. So just to make sure we are on the secondary node, I'm gonna type the IP-A just to verify we are there. So 142. And what we want to do is stop Postgres. So let's type sudo systemctl stop Postgres. And this is something you have to do on all the secondary nodes that you have. You can have like a witness. You have to stop it first before you actually add it, because you want to sync up what's over on the primary node to the secondary node. So you need to stop it and then also remove the default data information that's on the server as well. So let's stop it and then let's go down and remove that directory. So rm and then it's var. Oh, and I got to put tech or f for forced and recursive. So var lib Postgres and then 16 and then main. And we want to remove that right fast. So let's go down and press enter. That'll remove that directory for us, that main directory. And now let's go down and make another copy of that directory with nothing in it. We just type make dir and then -p and press enter. That'll make that directory for us. And now let's go down and make some changes to this directory as well. And that's the ownership, because the person that's supposed to own it is Postgres. Change own and then specify Postgres account and then Postgres as the group. That way they fully own, or that account fully owns this directory. So let's go and press enter. That'll save that. Good to go. We need to go into the configuration files here on the secondary node, and we need to make a few changes. So I'm gonna go sudo nano, and then under our etc directory, we need to make some changes to our PostgreSQL configurations. Let me hurry up and get to it right fast so you guys can see. And then our PostgreSQL config, and I'm gonna go down and search this just to make it simple. We want to change that listen, and let's go down and take this off. And then we need to listen to all IP addresses for our setup. And then let's see, Control W. We need to do that hot_standby, and we need to turn that on right fast. And then also our library, we need to update that as well. That's the only changes we need to make in this one. And you want to do this on whatever secondary nodes, however many you have, you want to make these changes to the configuration file as well. So shared library, want to uncomment that out. And then we want to add Repmgr as our library. And then let's go and save this right fast. That's the only changes we need to make in there. But we also need to go into our client connection, and it's just a few changes there as well. We could just add those at the bottom. There we go. And then let's just go down to the bottom, and I'll quickly add them so it'll be able to connect to the secondary server. Let's put R, and let's put this as the notes, and then we can paste that in there right fast. That's our changes. That's the only changes we need to make there, and press enter. Good to go. Now we're done. Let's go down and log into our Postgres account. Sudo that tech I, tech U, and then Postgres. Just press enter and get up in there right fast. And now we need to run a command to add this as a standby. And really all the standby is there for is to sit there and wait. It'll replicate, it'll have all the updated data as you add to the primary is updated, and it synchronizes with all the other nodes, but it's waiting there in case the primary node goes down. It'll take over as the primary at that point. And so I already had a command written out. I'm gonna just put it in here right fast, and I'll just walk you guys through it. But it's the same exact as the other, except you're not registering a primary, you're registering a clone, and you need to specify the IP address of the primary node. And then our configuration file has our configuration for this server And then this is the database and the user accounts. And then we want this to be standby and we want it to be a clone. And actually, I'm gonna take this -f off and I want to show you guys something. So you can type tac dry tac run. And this will let you know if it's gonna run into any errors. And this is like the moment of truth. So if we did everything right, it should say all prerequisites for a standby clone are met. So we're good to go. Now we can run it for real because that was just a test run. And then you can do tac F, and this will wipe out any data on this server. I just wanted to wipe it out manually, but you can definitely wipe it out using this -f, and this will clone all the data from the primary server. After starting the server, you need to register this standby with Repmgr as a standby. So we're good to go there. If you ran into issues, it'll give you hints, as you can see hint here, just things that you can do to fix whatever problem that pops up. But let's go down and exit out of this account right fast because we have to start the service. So let's type sudo systemctl and start. We want to start our PostgreSQL and press enter. Boom. And now let's go back into our Postgres account and let's go down and register our standby. And all you have to do is type Repmgr and then tac F, and we have to specify a file. So etc and then repmgr.conf, and then we want to register this as a standby and register. So similar to the command when we did the primary, this is a standby though. And so let's go down and press enter, and this will make a successful connection to the server, and we are good to go. We have set up our failover clustering or high availability clustering. Now let me go down and exit out because I don't need to get in that account anymore, and we don't really need to be on the secondary node anymore, but I'm gonna leave it open. I'm gonna go back over to the primary because I wanted to show you guys how to look at your cluster. So there are a couple commands you can type that can get you information about the server. So let's go Repmgr tac F, and then our configuration file, and then cluster show, and this will show us the cluster. So let's press enter. And as you can see, the 2 nodes that we have. And right now there is a warning, not sure why, but it says following issue was detected. So unable to connect to node PG2. And I've seen this in the past. You can look at the logs and kind of fix this, but it is connected to it. As you can see, it's added and registered to the server. But there is one other thing you want to do. We have to start the Repmgr D or daemon. So let's do that on the primary, and I want to show you on the secondary. But I'm basically going to run the same command. So this will allow Repmgr to run all the time on the system. And then also it just spits out the information about our logs that are stored. So we're good to go. We added that. Now I know their secondary node is working, but I went over there and stored it to daemon as well. But let's go down and test our failover. And let's just go down and make some changes right fast. It really doesn't matter. We don't have to, but we can create some changes on there. But let's create a table. Create table, and then we can name it test_table, and then we can specify some stuff in there. So ID, and then we can create that integer or nits, and then let's do name, and then var char, and we can specify 50 characters, and then semicolon at the end. That should be right. Let's make sure. Yeah, boom. So we created the table. We're good to go. Now let me exit out right fast, and then let's exit out of our Postgres account as well. But what I'm gonna do is stop the service so you guys can see what actually happens. So let's go sudo systemctl stop PostgreSQL and press enter. Type in our sudo password, and this will let you know if your failover server is working. And so right now the service is stopped over here, and let's switch to our new primary or the secondary that we created. And let's log back into our account, our Postgres account, and let's run that cluster show again. Let's go Repmgr and then tac F, and then etc rep, and then cluster show, and press enter, and I'll show you what's going on right now. So as you can see, our primary has failed and there's no connection to it. So right now our node 2 is the primary and it's running with those changes and all that stuff. Timeline, priority. And what you have to do, it won't automatically fail back. You have to correct the server and then re-register it as a primary node, and then also re-register the secondary as a secondary node if you want to make that other one the primary again. That's the way it works. It doesn't have an automatic failover process like Microsoft SQL You have to go in and configure Reg Manager again and set up whichever server you want to be the primary versus the secondary. And so there you have it. You successfully set up replication and failover for PostgreSQL cluster using Rep Manager in Akamai Connected Cloud. This setup ensures your database remains available even if one of the nodes goes down, which is crucial for production environments. Now, also, don't forget to use the link in the description below to sign up at Akamai Connected Cloud and get $100 in free credit. It's a great way to get started and try out these steps on your own. Also, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to Akamai developer channel and hit the bell icon to get notifications of our latest videos. Make sure you leave any questions or comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.